There it is. Things are starting to look up. Starting to look like a car again. There's the door with the window frame, vent window. All the rubber is in place. I've started on the seat track bottom. So the driver's seat sits on there, and the uprights bolt into that center bracket, and a pivot on the outside here. You can see right there. Windlace fits well. Headliner looks good. That windlace in there looks good. Not bad for an amateur. Don't look too close. You're probably all wondering, how do you take apart the front seat of a 40s GM two-door? Well, I'm about to show you, as I learned myself. So on the other seat, I proved that these have to come out here, one screw each, 3 screws across the bottom. Then I have to pry the metal tabs that hold these hooks, and then this back end the front cushion should pop up, leaving me with the back. It's going to be a little complicated to make this, but we'll see. It has a seam there, it's just on this portion. Then it has multiple seams on the sitting part, the part you lean against. And this one's in pretty rough shape, but at least I have the material here. So you can see the piping, padding for the front, well, the seat back actually, that you lean against, more stitching all the way around, more piping. This one's fabric, and that separates the two. So when I undo those clips, I should be able to lift this portion off the seat. These are the tabs I was talking about. Just pry up. See, this one's in its original position, and this one I've pried. That should loosen it. I've gotten them loose, and this just pries off easily and comes free of the hooks that are right there. Hooks right there to hold this in place. Looks like they hook right here on each side. There's the marks. So this, I have to replace this padding obviously, but just shows me what they had. This is 3 layers. The padding, some kind of dust cloth or whatever, more padding, and then the fabric. It's amazing what you can find in old cars. And you see the wasp nest right there. Looks like it was fairly big. And then I've got to do a bunch of cleaning. I'll blow that all off, burlap. I'll replace this one because it's all rotten. And had some kind of fire there at one point. There was some of the seat padding was burnt. So that was probably put out just in the nick of time. And then I have to replace this twist cord here too. I don't have the same stuff, but I bought some stuff that's the same size. It should work just fine. One thing I just realized was that the other piece, the old piece, has some tighter thread right on this edge. And the new piece has the same, but I cut it at a different angle, a different orientation right there. So I put that on the side. So what I've done is I've just added 1/2 an inch, 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to sew down here just to give it some more reinforcement. So I've sewn this. Here's the cord I'm using, which is same size. So I will undo these and crimp them back on and feed them through roughly 1-inch gaps. I've started on the seat. That's the first piece of burlap. Goes across the back here, and the dense foam will go against it. There will be quilt batting, fairly thick quilt batting that go over top of that. So that should duplicate what was there originally. I do have to replace the top piece of burlap, or I want to anyway. It's wearing through there just to make it last a little longer. And that will get rid of the last of the wasp nest as well. So I vacuumed as much as I could, and I've blown it out, and it looks fairly clean. I'm not going to worry about painting it. It really should not be a problem. So I'll replace the top burlap. I admit to cheating. Here it is on video. I just took this piece and laid it over top, putting the hog rings in, using the original beading that was there, plus one new piece here, and there I didn't use any. I just used the original and clamped it in place. That will protect everything. Nothing's going to shift. The only thing wrong with the previous burlap, the original burlap, was it had a couple of holes. So that'll take care of that. Should be quite strong. This is the seat so far. So this is 1-inch foam, which I will hog ring all the way along, and I'll use this as a reinforcement. This is bed sheet. Underneath that is burlap, bed sheet, then foam. The burlap protects the foam from the springs, adds some strength, and they had muslin, or sorry, cheesecloth just on the original. Of course, that was all rotten. So I've used some bed sheet, which is going to be as good as the muslin was, or the cheesecloth, sorry, and that allows the foam to slide a bit, whereas it would stick more on the burlap. The dirt on here is because I was working on the floor, and my wife nicely gave up her workbench that she was using so I could put the foam on. It's much easier standing up. I'll show you what I did on the other side, how I've attached it. And I just found a very sharp piece of metal sticking in the finger. Yo! About 1/8 of an inch. Nothing like poking yourself with nice rusty metal. I am up to date. So I've hog ringed the burlap to lay it on flat with no real tension, but smooth. Then I hog ringed the linen, same procedure, and then I've attached the foam using the linen as a reinforcement. So now I will do that side. I don't want it to run underneath with this, so I will do that with the quilt padding. So this is 1-inch medium density foam, and so far it feels like it should be pretty good. And then I'll put fairly thick quilt batting. It's about 1/2 inch on top of that, and that should duplicate the original pretty closely, I think. Here's the back side. This is the part that has the parcel shelf going from here out, and then I've wrapped it around the bottom as the original was. I think it was actually wrapped around part way, but I've done the whole thing. And then the fabric will come right around to here. This doesn't really interfere with anything. And I've used the linen wherever possible to add some kind of strength to the padding. When I used Elmer's glue to glue the foam together, I put on a fairly light coat. It was the foam was covered, but it wasn't saturated. So and I left it overnight, and it peeled away. I did leave it till it was all tacky and followed their instructions. So the 3M77 seems to have worked better. I did put it on quite thick, and I haven't let it sit overnight, so that's not a totally fair comparison. I bound it up with the linen, which is quite tight. I have to do some more smoothing. that doesn't work, I'm going to have to get a bigger piece. But that's the idea. Put that on, then I put the quilt batting, and then I put another sheet of linen over that, and then the seat cover. There's the basic seat. A couple little spots that I have to change the tension on. You can see a bit of a ripple there along the edge of the seat. These spots here in front where it's lifted up, I can loosen that underneath. There is a trim there in the car that runs across that portion. Covers about an inch, so I will adjust it, but it shouldn't be too critical. And now I just have to size up the seat covers and the piping and the side pieces and the anchors. I used a little bit thicker padding on the new seat cover than I did that was there originally. You can see for this front piping, it goes around the corner, drops down. So I'm going to pull this down more, size it up, and I won't use the original as a pattern because the padding is thicker. I've run into trouble with that before, so I have to make allowances for that. So that's what I'll do. And then I'll cut the other pieces according to how they have to fit. Previously I've made piping with this machine. I didn't have any trouble, but this one piece, I had nothing but trouble. I couldn't get it to stitch properly for nothing. So I finally found that if I use a zipper foot, and this machine you can set the needle off to the right or left, so I've set it off to the right, and that seems to be working just fine. A good stitch. Looks like actual piping. So save yourself some frustration. Use the zipper foot.